So we're gonna need everyone to mute and turn off your video in the bottom left-hand corner, just so that we don't get a whole lot of interference.
Oh,
This is
okay.
this is my first time tech hosting, so my apologies in advance for anything that I happen to screw up. It's not intentional. So yeah, so we just want to let everyone know that we're recording tonight. There's the chat conversation on the side. So if you have any questions for Jude during the Q&A, you can put them in the chat window. The link to buy her book is also in the chat window, and it comes very quickly. And I guess we'll officially start. I'm Cynthia Sharp. I'm an author and poet and the City of Richmond's writer-in-residence. And the housekeeping stuff I already mentioned, we're recording, and there'll be time to post comments in the chat room. The comments that you post in the chat room will be part of the recording and will be permanently in our YouTube video. So you can be part of History with Jude Neale. Okay. And I just want to tell you a little bit more about Jude, who you all know, but I get to read all about her. Jude Neale is a Canadian poet, flash fiction writer, opera singer, retired master teacher, spoken word performer, editor, and mentor. She's been shortlisted, highly commended, and a finalist for many international and national competitions, and she has written 8 books. And this latest collection of poetry, Impromptu, grew from an International Poetry Month challenge that required writers to respond to a daily prompt, creating a poem each day for 1 month. The resulting selections were so compelling that Jude continued past the 30-day limit with prompts of her own, so she made up another 17 and produced in 47 days this book that is fresh, insightful, vital, venturing far beyond what initially started as a simple writing exercise. The volume is a 21st century exploration of the infinite mystery of love and light. And if you know Jude Neale, you know she's all about love and light. It takes the reader on a journey encompassing surrealism, sonnets, haiku, and many other poetic forms. It was a labor of deep inspiration that will hopefully nudge other writers to forge new paths in their creative endeavors. So I'm looking at 2 screens. And like Jude's 5 previous books, and this always amazes me, this whole volume was written solely on her iPhone. So we're going to ask everyone to please go to the bottom left-hand screen and mute your mics and turn off your cameras. And we're inviting Jude up to the stage to read for us. So I'm hoping that we just get to see Jude. And what have I done? Okay. I don't know why I can't hear Jude.
I can talk.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, so we're ready for you.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the book that I'm supposed to be reading from. It's Impromptu, but the font is too small. I broke my glasses and the lens popped out, and so I've had to reproduce the work on size 18 font on sheets. So I apologize. I'm reading from sheets, but I am reading from the prompts. And this book was so inspirational. I got prompts from India, England, New York, and Toronto. I went cruising around for prompts and during National Poetry Month last year and created this book. I made it my goal to complete a poem per day, and that's what I did. So here's prompt 1. Write a poem that includes instructions. Recipe for rising. The new robins sing out the hour as dust slips to the top of the trees. It ignites the cedars and maples into a glorious confabulation of gold and orange. I lay on my back in the long grass and wonder what the steps are for making puff pastry, and the pink-edged clouds rise high in the cooling air. The shadows lengthen until I can hold the whole world softly in my outstretched arms. Handle gently. Keep the butter cold, then let it rest, just as I do in spring's magnificent gloaming. The next prompt I'm going to do was based on writing elegies, and I've always wanted to write an elegy for my father. My father died in February 26, 2000, and this is what I wrote about him. After I give you the prompt, I'll read it to you now. Today, I'd like to challenge you to write an elegy of your own, one in which the abstraction of sadness is communicated not through abstract words, but physical detail. It's called obit. Today, we cremated him in his best Armani suit. Had it dry cleaned, too. The trace of ash from his pipe was gone. We put around his neck his loyal Order of Mason's tie with his favorite Windsor knot. My fingers fumbled when I placed my love letter into his breast pocket. The red rose from the garden Mum tucked into his jacket. His black dress shoes were polished. It stained my skin, the color of his hair that I clipped off and put in my purse next to the lighter I had given him for Christmas. His face was cold and vacant. He had nothing more to tell me that I didn't already know. Where could he be going, dressed so fine? He was burned until dust and became transformed to white porcelain ash. And that goes out to Ursula Vira, who was my first publisher. And I asked her to look through my manuscript and pick her favorite poem, and that was the one for her. So Ursula, thank you for getting me started. Prompt 2. This one had to have lots of question marks and to be slightly surrealistic. And I wrote surrealistic poems many times, but they just came out of me. I hadn't had to strictly stick to the confines. You must write a surrealistic poem and use questions. So it was quite a challenge. And this is what I came up with. The promise. The red of her dress glimmers, a chrysanthemum no one can pluck. Is it the color or the promise of beauty that holds him? She moves like a scarf in the wind, effortless steps across the plain. She squats down to look, a praying mantis with knees apart, feet planted in the dust. What is the use of this dry heat? She raises her head and looks past him to capture the blaze of sunlight on his face. How does one speak of the rumblings of love? Make a white flag and surrender? Her bare feet kick up the earth as she runs to him. If she is the wind, can he be the hollow flute echoing back her urgent song? The next prompt is prompt 4 for those people who have books. I'm not sure what page it's on, but it's prompt 4. This was 14 lines, a quasi-sonnet about something sad and hard to talk about. And my mother had just died, and I found an outlet for it in this poem. It is called Mum. The hospital phoned and said you were dying. We never talked about babies because you forgot how to. When I visited you, you looked for clues of who I was. It's me, Mum, your daughter. And we kissed back recognition. I didn't know your favorite color, and you didn't know my birthday. But the hospital phoned, and I knew everything you taught me about love. Prompt 10. Write a weather poem using international expressions. And in this case, I researched and went to England because for my mission of finding some colloquial expressions. One reason was I was married to a Brit for 17 years, and I heard many expressions. And when I was over in England much of my life, and I know where these come from. So I like to read this poem called Raining in Norwich. The sky darkened to a bruise, and the wind chuffed and blew. The cows lay down in the field, and the grass flattened and rose. I looked through the window to see the rush of the rainfall like old ladies and sticks against the drenched stone wall, with the leaning bike now glazed with the torrents that ran down the spokes to the widening pool on the black earth. The laundry held hostage to the wind and the mud. The shirts loosened their grip first and tumbled into the puddles, pummeled with open sky torrents so violent it bounced like cherries onto the saturated ground. It struck the water and flooded the barrel, and then it suddenly ceased, and there was enough blue sky to make a sailor a pair of trousers. The sun blazed overhead, and steam rose from the drowned field, rising to the golden tip cops of oak trees, etched in the glory of the noonday sun. Prompt 45. Answer a child's question with a story. And when I was growing up and when I had my children, we look out on the sky for the moon that was glowing in the daytime, when you could see the imprint of the moon in the sky in the daytime. And we called it the children's wishing moon, because you could make a wish on it before bed and it didn't have to be dark. So this is called the children's wishing moon. Where is the moon, Mummy? She's waiting for you to sleep so she can hang like a paper lantern in the western sky and creep into your crib, stroking your cheek with her cool fingers of light. She embraces the rise and fall of your quiet breath and outlines your face with silver. The sheer curtains riffle in the breeze, and moon shadows dance on your wall. Little one, the moon will follow you wherever you happen to go, making the way clear to fall and rise again. She gives you second sight to see the cow jumping over the moon, and the little dog laughs to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Prompt 18. Prompt 23. I'd like to challenge you today to write a poem about any living thing. And I don't know why I picked this, because I have so many things I could have picked, but I picked dragonfly. Dragonfly, iridescent and blue, your colors reflect on the tip of my oar. Water streams down the wood, and you lightly perch on my wrist. I would trade my skin for your shimmer today. You hover over the lake, gazing at the surface for bugs and a branch to watch out from. I am thrust back to prehistoric times as I take in your carapace and long inset legs. You have been here since the earth was young. You were a bouquet of purple, red, yellow, blue, flashing and sparkling through the morning mist. Time traveler, you saw what was before. Did no one gasp in admiration at the glory of your flight, or your ability to skim the humid air, collecting moisture on your painted wings? I take a picture, and you are gone. The still beauty of you remains indelibly stamped on my empty palm. Prompt 11. I love doing this one. It might have been one of my favorites, because this, if you listen to the prompt, you could see you could really go somewhere with this, and I went lots of places. Talk about where you are from using snippets of memory. Where I am from. I am from dusty roads, trumpeter swans, and frozen lakes, a twin brother who ran from grizzly bears into my young father's arms. I am from a two-seater outhouse and the call of gray wolves. My mother dancing in the kitchen, and salmon so heavy my small arms couldn't lift them. I am from my parents' anger and my young brother's invisibility, from Sunday roast dinner and washing dishes, listening to the Saturday opera and howdy doody. I am from guilt and shame, lemon meringue pie and conditional love, too many tears and running in the dark. I am from mom's backbone and dad's quiet laugh. Days at the beach, laying on my stomach, dogs and cats and the yowl of cougars. I am from worry and love beads, the grime of London and Nanaimo, from ambition and perfectionistic drive. I am from fractured skull and ballet lessons and the endless possibilities of youthful love, marriages and miraculous babies. I am from then and there, here and now, with my story still in progress. This was the most difficult prompt I had encountered during the whole time, and I plunged into it thinking this will be easy, and it took me all day. It is prompt 27. Write a poem using 2 lines from a Shakespearean sonnet and create a completely new poem. It is called Winter Gifts, Sonnet 12, William Shakespeare. That thou among the wastes of time must go, then of thy beauty do I question make. You ask me once again if I am old, and I will respond in heart and mind, I am but young, though my skin does so gently sag and my hair has lost its luster. Still, I wrap myself in perfume's gown and wonder at the simple problem of mixing identity with form, for the balance of youth and wisdom is seen to be inviolable, and yet I yearn to call back time, see myself again as blank and lovely, though I much prefer the slower dances in your arms guiding me forward. I am but a thorny rose whose blossoms fair and sweet doth bloom in the deepest days of this long winter. Prompt 28. Write intimately about a piece of nature that you're familiar with. And I called it bounty. Come follow me, my love, past the broken stairs where a trail converges with splashes of foxglove and magenta lupins. They mark the way to the great alders and pricks of blackberry which ignites the rocky path with apron green, plump, purple light. Ripened fruit sweetens the air, welcoming the bees and white-tailed deer. See the brackish puddle reflect the morning light and watch the leaf twirl lazily in the freshening breeze. This is us, the call of the crows, the shadow of the maple, are constant and unrestrained. I want to die here in this moment, turning the black sod over with my own soft hands. And the last poem I like to read has been mentioned by both two people who put blurbs on my book, and also it's Cynthia's favorite poem. So I'm going to read Changes, which is prompt 6, which was changing something negative into something positive. And this was before COVID, but we still had our problems. If the dying earth was carpeted with a bright palette of wildflowers and the waters sang with wails, it would be enough for me to dress in white to marry the world again. If I could hug all the nation's peoples, I would press love like a flower into their hearts, and the tune of sorrow would dissipate. If you fell at my feet, I would carry you on my back to a resting place where you could learn about love and flourish in the bowered bed I had made for you. If I lost my voice, I would learn to give with my hands. I would fashion bracelets of gold to show you my shimmering tune. If the sun wouldn't shine, I would gather all the smiles you had saved for me and ignite the whole blessed world with my joy. If I let go of worry, I would be filled with the sacred reflection of possibilities opening like a flower. If I could, I would change it all. I would leave luminosity and light where my feet had trodden. Thank you. Okay, Cynthia.
A huge thank you to Jude Neale. And it is a little bit strange to not hear the applause, but thank you, thank you, thank you, Jude.
If there are any other suggestions, I have one really recent poem I could read.
Okay, so yeah, there's lots of applause going on in the chat room. And I want to ask Jude a few questions.
Okay.
Jude, you're a mezzo-soprano specializing in Puccini, and you collaborated with violist Thomas R.L. Beckerman on the CD Places Beyond, which is one of my favorite. I have all Jude's CDs. Jude is like such a talented person. She's had this background in opera, and then she's translated it over to poetry. I mean, you were commissioned to write poetic prose narrative, the St. Roch Suite, to go with Thomas's composition for the Prince George Symphony Orchestra. Could you speak to how your poetry reflects your singing background? You have a musical cadence and timbre, and you have very unique line breaks. And maybe you can tell us a bit about how music has influenced your poetry.
Yes, it has influenced me immeasurably. I think I could say at the time, looking back now, I was a child prodigy for singing. I started singing when I was 2.5 and had this enormous voice and could sing. And my grandmother was an opera singer and my father was a piano player and singer. And I had music coursing through my veins. And so that when I wrote, everything had a rhythm to it. Everything had a cadence. And I reflected it in the way I wrote the poems down. Because if you look at my work, you will see that they seem to be broken up. And they're broken up according to where you take a breath. And breathing is so important for singing. More than anything, that I also think it's important for reading poetry, so a person could pick up my poem and see how I'm meant to be read by looking at how it's formed on the page, Cynthia.
Wow. And you're also got an extensive career as a teacher. I mean, you're famous on Bowen Island for your teaching. You've been nominated for the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence. And that was based on your use of poetry in your curriculum. I know many of your former students have also followed your writing path and attributed your influence as a key to their own journey. Could you speak to how impromptu could be used in classrooms?
Well, I've already tried it out. I had the good fortune to be at Island Pacific School on Bowen Island this year and work with some wonderful young people there, some teenagers there. And I used the writing prompts, which really generated some fine writing. And other people who've used my prompts, who've seen my manuscript and used my prompts, say they help them too when their mind is a blank and they don't know what to write about. The prompt is something there they can use as a crutch at first, and then they just explode with creativity. Yes, I recommend this for anyone who likes to write.
I would say to you, the prompt that Jude made up, add a day to any month and tell me what you do with it, is my favorite poem I wrote in that month. And it was so easy. It was one of the ones you made up on your own.
I know.
So let's turn over to the chat room. Does anyone else have any questions for Jude? Or requests for her last poem? Robert Martin says, music, poetry, breath. I like that. That's almost a poem in itself there.
Thank you, Robert.
And yeah, we have wonderful people giving some good comments. Well, I might ask you one more question then. Jude, your work is impeccably edited. That's one of the things, and every book is tighter and tighter. And I wanted to ask you about your process, especially the fact that you wrote these on an iPhone. What's your process for editing and writing?
Well, it didn't come naturally. In 2005, I went to Humber College and was mentored by Elizabeth Harbour, the great writer and poet. And she immediately saw value in my work, but too many words. So she would give a 6-page poem and whittle it down to a verse and say, this is brilliant. And through her, I learned that less is definitely enough. And I have her sitting on my shoulder all the time saying, don't be maudlin, don't be sentimental. And she would say, don't use too many adjectives, don't start with an adverb. And I have that in my head playing all the time so that when I write, it comes out that way now. It's habit.
Nice. Sherry wrote, yeah, rule of life, less is more. I've always admired that about your poetry, Jude, the unique way you break up your lines and the fact that you're such a strong editor. And we have a question from David. What is next for you, Jude?
I'm going to be going to Joy Kagawa House on Monday. I start a residency there, writer in residence there, and I'm going to be writing a chapbook when I'm there. So, and what else? I think that's it. I just finished my 9th book. I should have, Richard, if you're here today, I just thought I should tell you. Richard Olafson is my publisher, marvelous Richard Olafson. And I during this 2-month lockdown, I have come up with another 47 poems, which will be published in the next couple of years, I guess.
Emily's wondering, how long will you be gone? I think, how long will you be at Joy Kogawa House?
2 weeks.
And the link, oh, sorry. And also people are wondering where to buy her book. I just posted the link.
Yes. Through Ecstasis Editions, you can get it directly through them or Amazon or me, but preferably through Richard Olafson through Ecstasis Editions. And I really appreciate if you bought my book, Emily, because I think you'd like the prompts in it.
So I just posted the book link. If you click on the link I just posted, it'll take you to Ecstasis Editions to the page where you can buy it from Jude. And it ships really quickly. So I think I think that might be about
I have one more poem.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, first I want to thank everyone, then we'll let Jude close the last poem. So I just want to thank everyone for coming, all of our friends, everyone from Richmond, who came out, all of our friends from the Federation of BC Writers, Jude's publisher, Richard Olafson, all the Bowen Island crowd for coming out a second time. This is their second time attending this release, and it's worth every penny, or well, it's free, but it would be worth every penny if you bought it. Ursula Vira, who published Jude's first poetry collection, and all her students through all the years from around the world who've been popping in and out. Her partner, Paul Hewson. So just thank you to all of our friends and family and support for being here. We want to wish everyone happy writing and a wonderful evening. And we're going to let Jude close the show, and I'm going to post the link one more time.
Well,
sorry, I posted it privately. That's what went wrong. Sorry.
May I speak now?
Yeah, sorry, Jude's back.
On the 6th of April, John Prine died, and it happened to be a day when I had looked at the prompt and I didn't like it, and so I decided to write a poem like John Prine would. John Prine was always a hero for me for lyrics. He could take anything and make it special. So this is called Something to Say, Tribute to John Prine. When I heard John Prine sing Souvenirs in my kitchen that way, I cried on the chair, gulping great tears, for he'd seen inside me, though I had nothing to say. He could stroke the wrist of the common man and turn his gaze to the heart, find the girl in the crowd at the diner alone, just after she'd fallen apart. He could prod you to feel her husband's blank stare, wasn't directed at anyone there, and he'd just given up and left her alone, not stroking her beautiful hair. He'd say in that way that was his alone, things that weren't found in the news. He captured the sweetness of summer in the tune of his steel string blues. He could make you look deeply into the eyes of the broken who wait to be found in the night, and there was no one to see and no one to care, until John sang and switched on the light. So let's raise a glass to the wretched, and one to the life we must lead. For you plucked the heartstrings of the many who sang along with your song and were freed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You'll put the book link on Facebook.
I'll put the book link on Facebook too, so you can see it. And thank you so much for coming today, everyone. It meant the world to me. It's a wonderful way to do it. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Jude. That's fantastic. Oh my God. So blessed.